Tacoma Park man accused of posing as a woman to secretly record women in gym locker rooms being held without bond tonight. Fox 5's Julie Donaldson live outside the Montgomery County Courthouse with those details tonight. Julie.
Hey, Marina. Well, the defense attorney asked the judge to consider a less restrictive option to being held without bond, arguing that while the crimes are problematic, they're not violent. But the judge, well, she disagreed with that, taking into consideration the danger of the crimes and the fact that there are two other pending charges in Prince George's County of similar offenses. Now, police first learned of the suspect on October 10th after a woman at One Life Fitness in Germantown reported a man entered the woman's locker room and recorded her in the shower. Investigators later identified the suspect as 44-year-old Chikunidi Tati of Tacoma Park, arresting him on October 9th at the Planet Fitness in White Oak. Police say that Tati was at the gym for 7 hours without working out. He would then put on a wig and pretend to be a woman to enter the locker room where he would film his victims. He would then hide his disguise while leaving to avoid detection. He is now facing up to a year in jail on multiple counts of peeping Tom and visual surveillance of a private area.
One of the biggest factors that a judge is looking at when determining bond is dangerousness. So in this case, the judge determined that there was no less restrictive means to ensure the safety of the community. People need to be able to feel safe when they are at the gym showering. So this defendant will remain held without bond until trial, which will be in district court on December 15th.
Now, an interpreter was in court to translate as the suspect speaks Lingala, the native language of the Congo. Now, the defense attorney says he lives with his wife of 4 years and they have 2 young children. Police do believe that there may be other victims and they're urging anyone with information to come forward.
All right, so let me ask y'all a question, right? As we navigate through this whole situation, and let me get him back up on the screen just so we can make sure that we see exactly what's going on. So you got this older gentleman that's going inside of these gyms. And I'm sure that he's went into more than one gym. And he did a whole shift. He was in there for more than 7 hours. So let's just round it up to 8 hours and say that he was hanging out in the gym for 8 hours. And he was basically eyeing and trying to figure out who was going to be his victim. And then he goes into the women's bathroom and he throws a wig on so that he can then go and record other people. Now, I think it's creepy to record people inside of the bathrooms or inside of the locker rooms in general. But follow me here. What's the difference between him doing this and men saying that they are women, although they were biologically men, and going and using women's bathrooms, and then you remove the whole recording situation? I'm just asking a question because I'm trying to figure out if it's based off of trying to make sure that people feel safe. What about the people that don't feel safe? Because we're going to get back to him, right? Obviously, I have a whole lot of issues with this guy. But what about the people that don't feel safe with biologically born men going into women's bathrooms because they feel like they are a woman? Or even all of this woke stuff that justified people transitioning over into being something that they weren't biologically. Because at your core, regardless of how much you transition, and I've been watching people with all of these stories about how they're detransitioning and stuff, you are still biologically a man or a woman. And so now technology has gotten so advanced to where people can get to the point to where you really can't at first glance tell whether or not they are biologically born a man or born a woman. Now, of course, you have the obvious stuff because this guy is absolutely diabolical. And the fact that he's only facing a year in jail or prison is crazy to me because you know that he's done this more than one time. And he's walking around with a pink hoodie, which means that he's trying to deceive people. And he's walking around with a wig. So at what point at all of this time, and there's 7 hours of him hanging out at the gym, right? Because I don't know anybody, not one person that's not employed at a gym that's hanging out for 7 hours straight at a gym. And if you hanging out for 7 hours straight at a gym, that means you must be buff. Like you got to be it. You got to be all the way it. You training for Mr. America, Mrs. America, all of that stuff, right? You basically are Arnold Schwarzenegger in the flesh. You don't got no job. You ain't got no employment. What are you doing all day with your time? And then obviously they say he's from the Congo, I believe, which is another interesting situation because that would say that he's not born here in the United States of America, but I see that they failed to mention that part, but we gonna also get there. And you got a wife, and I believe they said that he had kids. So you got a wife and kids, and you're not even from here, and you going to go record other women inside of the bathroom. And what did you plan on doing with that type of information? Outside of pleasuring yourself, I'm assuming, and collecting this. And by the time that they get arrested the first time, that this is not the first time that they've ever done it, right? So we have to assume that this has happened to more than one person, and you need to find out every single gym that this guy's been a part of. And then again, we have to start having a conversation if this person felt compelled to go inside of a woman's bathroom. So compelled, right? Convinced that they would get away with it. And obviously nobody would mistake this person for being a woman. Like, come on, stop. I don't care if you put a mask on and then you walking around with glasses and then you got your phone out. What did you think was going to happen? Now our women can't feel safe by going into the gym and taking a shower or using a restroom. It's bad enough where you go into a private business and people don't feel safe enough to be able to do what they got to do without worrying about some creep or some weirdo doing some stuff that they're not supposed to do. But now you got these other weirdos that's going inside of the gym and recording these people without their permission, and then they bringing cameras inside of the locker room, which is weird in itself. And he a 50-something-year-old man. So I would say not only should we not grant him bond, but we also have to question his background, and then we have to start having a conversation about whether or not this guy needs to be deported. Whether he needs to be deported, and we need to do a deep dive into his history, because if you've grown to be 50-something years old and you now went to the store and bought a wig, or you're using your wife's wig or your daughter's wig or whoever it is wig that you got on, and now you're out here running into people's bathrooms and recording them, that is sick, bro. That is absolutely sick. And all of these people that's walking around every single day, you don't know who's who. You don't know what they into. You don't know what they got going on inside of their house. You don't know, what the situation is. And it's just nasty, bro. And now we have a United States of America that, thank God, our Republicans and Trump are trying to fix, because we getting away from all of the woke that this under Biden administration, and if Kamala Harris had became president of the United States of America, they would have been championing the fact that, hey, listen, if you feel like a girl, and we know still out in California, obviously out in Portland, super, super liberal places like Seattle, maybe throw in Chicago in there and then sprinkle a little bit of Denver and then put the cherry on top of New York, this would probably be able to play out, and he probably would have never gotten arrested in the first place. Not sure exactly where he's located, but these type of people would need to be thrown under the jail, and they need to be held accountable to the highest extent of the law. I'm trying to figure out why they can't charge him with more. Like, there needs to be a charge with impersonating a woman. This guy is old as hell. He went and listen, you know what's so deceitful about it is that he actually planned to dress up like a woman. He probably practiced this inside of a mirror and all of that nonsense. But anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Henley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. Wild, absolutely wild in every way, shape, and form.